This is Do It For a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I had a lot of people trying to say that I shouldn't start the business. A lot of times when you try to do something new and it's very courageous, people who are not as courageous will always try to bring you down. You know, there's very few people that are going to like pick you up in that moment. One thing racing taught me is that I don't play to survive whatever's going on. Like, I'm playing there to win.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It For a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It For a Living. I have David Localio, who is the owner of Headgames Motorworks. They do a lot of cylinder head porting for import cars. I'm actually familiar with what they do on Evos, but I've actually seen him doing a lot of work even on some Viper stuff for another shop local here in Texas. But I'll let him kind of share his story and tell us what he all does. So David, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. How are you, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Yeah, so David, why don't you go ahead and tell us about yourself? Tell us, when you were a kid, how did you get started? How did you get involved with cars?
I think, like many people listening to this podcast, I was born with an addiction, and that addiction is horsepower. And it's kind of weird to say that we were born with it, but I can't describe it any other way. And I put it out there like horsepower is my religion. It's something I practice every day. It's something I can't stop thinking about. I preach about it. Anybody wants to talk to me, we're talking about horsepower, we're talking about cars. So luckily, my parents recognized it, and they fostered it. My dad was a hot rodder, too, and he fixed cars on the side. And he was a corrections officer, but he still fixed cars, and he had a Mustang. And I just, I always needed to be around cars, though. When I was going in a car, we would go someplace, and I always needed to be sitting up front. It's obviously before they had
seats in the back.
He had kid seats in the back, and my parents would let me sit on a couple books so I could look at cars driving by, and I would drag them to car lots just so I could just be around them. I didn't have a particular favorite car at the time, but I just wanted to be around cars. And right around the age of 4, I started begging to pretend like I was driving. I just wanted to be sitting in the driver's seat, playing on the wheel, banging gears. My dad had a Vega, a stick shift Vega, and I'd always be pretending I was doing that. And one day, I decided I was sitting in the car, and I put the emergency brake down, and we had like a ski slope of a driveway. The thing just runs across the driveway. It runs down the driveway, goes across the road, goes into this big open field across the street. And, I mean, my ass was red as a brake light that day. My parents were so pissed off. But thankfully, they let me learn from that mistake. They still allowed me to play. They still let me go outside and do it. They didn't hover over me. And they really trusted me, and they let me learn from that mistake. And I would think that was big for me.
Cool.
And then we fast forward to like 6th grade. I had a paper route, and I bought my first car with the money. It was the only thing I wanted to do. I didn't buy toys and all that stuff. I was just saving up for I bought a 74 Torino.
And that was in 6th grade?
6th grade.
Wow, okay,
yeah.
So really young, huh?
Yeah, I was 12.
Okay.
And I bought my first car, and it had a 302 automatic. It was black on black. I was just so in love with it. It would make a complete left turn by itself, though. I mean, it was a piece of shit. It was like an $800 car, but I had to have it. And unfortunately, like being 6th grade and you have a car and that's the only thing you're thinking about. You don't have many friends that are the same way as you, because all those kids they're not into that. I mean, I was into bikes. I would fix all the kids' bikes in the area, and I was really into the BMX, but cars were my passion. So I kind of gravitated to those people. And there was a kid in my neighborhood, Ryan Stea. He all the guys would come over his house, and he had an IROC, and all the Mustangs and Novas and all that stuff would come over into the condo complex, and I hung out with him a lot, and at least all those guys. And one night in 7th grade, we decided to go street racing, and we went street racing. It's in the middle of the ghetto, but I felt totally safe because like everybody around us is doing the same thing, and anybody who's out there watching is also part of it. It's a beautiful part of our religion. It's like everybody, it doesn't have any boundaries. So I'm in 7th grade. I stayed out till about, I think, 2 o'clock in the morning watching. It was my first burnout. So it was all that stuff. And it was just it was such an incredible experience. And again, my parents were mad, but my punishment was I had to go to school the next day. But I was excited to go to school the next day because I couldn't wait to tell all my friends about what I had seen the night before. And the fire was just burning. It was just burning. It keeps growing. So we sold the Torino, and I begged my dad, let's do like a father-son project. Let's get something else. So I was looking at IROCs because Ryan had an IROC. You know how we enamor our friends, right?
Right.
At
exactly.
that age. So I really wanted an IROC. So I tear him to this garage or to this dealership, and we test drove an IROC, and there was a Grand National sitting in the corner, and he's like, I want to drive that. And we took that thing for a spin, and I was instantly hooked. Like, I learned in that moment that Boost would be my friend, and it would be my friend for life, because feeling turbo was way different than anything else I had already felt. So we ended up searching for a Grand National. We got an 87 T-Type. And I guess that's, again, the fire just kept burning. And now I'm tinkering with this turbocharged car. And I think it was going like 1220s, 1230s by the time I was 16, 17.
What year is that?
We're talking 94.
Okay. So before a lot of the tuning, like I guess the import tuning stuff was really big, I guess, huh?
Oh, way before the import stuff. Well, I don't know. I guess Ed Bergenholtz and them guys were probably doing stuff in the 90s, but we just didn't hear about it yet.
Right.
And I was no part of that. I mean, I was still in high school, and there was no import guys in my high school. Except for my best friend, actually. He got a CRX, and he put stereo in. It was my first, and a muffler. I guess that was probably my first. And then there became like a whole it's called the IDT crew. There became a bunch of import guys like right after I left high school. But by the time my car was I was a senior in high school, the Buick was well into the 10s. So they weren't going to hang with me anyway.
So most of the drag racing at the time was not turbo stuff, but I mean, they're obviously fast cars. They were just doing it with displacement, right? So that's why the Grand National was kind of different. Yeah,
well, I mean, you notice that anything turbocharged it's going to make it's going to take a lot more effort to do something NA against you.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the Mustangs back then were boosted, but they had blowers on them. Blowers were probably the bigger of the, but Grand Nationals kind of ruled the street back then. That was, you had a Buick, and you knew if you had any kind of work done to it. Back when I was in, I would say 95 or 4, that an 11-second car was the fastest thing on the street.
Mm-hmm.
At least of the slow guys. We had guys who bring stuff out in trailers, but I'd go out to Northeast Philly and street race pretty much every Sunday night. That was just my thing. And all my friends did it, at least all my car guy friends. We, all those guys, we palled around together, and we kind of went out as a team. We're almost like the 405 going out there and, wrecking stuff all over the place. And we also had the Tyranny. I was the second fastest car out in Northeast Philly for a summer. I got lucky with that, but I said the car was going 10s, and it was a great time. But during high school, I started working at a local repair shop, and I learned quickly. It wasn't for me. I was doing a head gasket job on an '87 Pontiac Parisienne, and I was just head to toe grease, and I decided this just isn't for me. I don't need this. So I was looking at the back of a Hot Rod magazine, and I saw an ad for the School of Automotive Machinist, and Brian Nutter was working as a recruiter there. Brian is probably well known as a guy at Weisco, or used to be at Weisco, but that dude would call me every time Mike Kurtz or Lawrence Connolly, who were big names in the Buick community at the time. Anytime they had an engine there, he was calling me up saying, "Man, the thing made 700, the thing made 1,000 on the dyno," and I was just sold. I needed to leave here. I wanted to be somebody, and I didn't want to. I knew I just couldn't do that here. So months later, I moved to Houston, and I started my new life. Judson, the owner of the school there, I guess about a year in, he saw that I wasn't working up to my potential. Like, I was at school, and I think, when you get to college, you get away from home, you kind of lose yourself a little bit. Mm-hmm. You start partying a little bit. I mean, we didn't we didn't do. I'm not a big drinker, but I drank more than I ever had probably in my life, and it just. He saw it going on, and he pulled me aside, and he said, "I'm just going to give you a job here, and basically, I'm going to immerse." I was going to be surrounded by it all day because I'm not working to my potential. But being there, he felt like I could.
And that was at the so you were working at the School of Automotive Machinists.
Yes, I was director of admissions.
Okay, so you were attending and working.
Yes.
Okay.
Being at the school all day, a lot of times, because we did a lot of activities with the school. We had an offshore powerboat racing team that we did stuff for. We built engines for it. One of the students drove it. And we're talking not like a little boat. We're talking a cat, like the Super Cats with the twin F-16 cockpits, and had twin 502s in it to make 1,000 apiece. We also did NMCA stuff. We had Mike Kurtz had a Monte Carlo that we built a motor for True Street. Now, 275, it was like a 275/60 class, but back then, going fast was, I think, in the 8s, like 890. Now we got guys on 275s going way faster than that, but back then that's what it was. So we showed up at the first race, and we set the record, and we won the race. So a lot of people got upset because there is this school, this tech school, which usually has no credentials, shows up at a race that a lot of these guys had big money into their motors and, big name engine builders, and this tech school just comes out and kicks your ass. So they tore us down almost at every race, trying to find something wrong with it. Because every time we show up at the race, we qualified number one, or we won the race, or we set the record, and even Billy Glidden one time, he jumped under the car and put a magnet to our oil pan because we weren't supposed to have an oil pan, aluminum oil pan. It's supposed to be a factory style oil pan, but we had an aluminum oil pan. So he puts it was a great advantage. Like, we were gonna win races because of an oil pan, but he was just everybody was frustrated with it. What they finally got us on was the valve stem size. We put a smaller valve stem. It had to be stock configuration, but they didn't say anything about stem size. So we put a smaller one in there to lighten the valve train up, and that's what they got us on. So after they got us on that, we weren't going to it was towards the end of the season, and we decided just to build a new motor for it. And we took a 502, and we destroked it to 477 inches. And again, it had to be like a crate motor.
Uh-huh.
And Casey Snyder, one of the students at the school, he took a pair of the square port heads that they come with, and he epoxied them, and he made them oval port. He made them nice big oval port. That bitch screamed, man. We won the championship that year with the 275 radial. And I was upon graduation at that point, and I made a decision because they had just bought 90. I'm trying to think, was it 97 Camaro, 98 Camaro? with the LS1. It was just like right at the infancy of the LS1 program.
Okay.
And we were cutting the intake apart. We're epoxying that. And we're trying all kinds of different stuff, just trying to make power with it because nobody else was doing that at the time. And we were going head to head with MTI. MTI was one of the bigger players in that in Houston, or actually in the country. But that Camaro is actually still the fastest. The school Camaro is still the fastest NA car in the country for an LS. So it never stopped progressing, and it became, if you look up the school, they win the Engine Masters programs all the time, and there are just some really good people that come out of there.
Yeah, it's a very reputable school for sure. So
yeah. I was able to work next to Pat Topolinsky. You guys probably see him on Power Block now. That guy went on to, I think it was Jason Line. He went to work for them for years. He did a lot of pro stock stuff, but back then he was a student. He hung out with us. We built motors together. And I got to work under Greg Good, who was an excellent head porter. In the domestic side, that guy's very revered. I got lucky to work under him. But it was during the NMCA that I got to meet Pat Musey, and I got to meet Chris Brown from Comp Cams and Scooter Brothers from Comp Cams. When I met Pat, I would go over there sometimes, and I would leave because we would always have a lot of students there, and I'd go and help Pat out. And one day he said, when you come home, why don't you come work for me? And I was into that. And then he started calling me and calling me and calling me and calling me like crazy. So I was like, I need to make a decision. I need to leave. Comp Camps had offered me a job as well.
And they're up in the Philly area? Where are they out of?
Musey was in Carteret.
Okay.
Which is North Jersey. He's like near New York.
Okay.
And I am in the central part of Jersey.
Okay.
I'm actually in between Philadelphia and New York. Okay. So, and Comp Cams is in Memphis, so they're kind of in the middle. So I figured I would drive home. I'd just go through Memphis, go for my interview at Comp, and then go to Musey's and see which one I like. So I leave school, I go to Comp, and the night before I stay in a hotel room across the street from Comp because I didn't want to get lost. And I was there late. I've been driving all day. It was like 14 hours. And I'm laying in bed, and somebody got shot in front of my hotel room. And it was really the weirdest thing. Like, I heard the arguing go on in the hallway, and then they go outside, and they're still screaming at each other. And you hear a couple pop, pop. And then the cops come, coroner comes, no questions asked. Nobody came and asked me if I wanted, did I see anything? It was like normal. So I decided that I'm just going to be there to look. I'm at Comp. I'm going to hang out. I got to meet Billy Godbold. He gave me my interview. He walked me around there. And Billy's like super smart. He's probably the smartest guy you'll ever talk to. He's pretty much the brainchild between all the extreme energy cams and all the really good stuff that goes on at Comp. So I walked around there, and then I came home, and I went to Musey's. And my interview at Musey's was, he asked me if I had ever gas bored a set of pistons before, and I had not. So he takes a piston, he puts it in the vise on the Bridgeport, and he cuts a couple holes. And he said, "Do you get it?" And I said, "Yeah, it looks pretty easy." He's like, "All right, well, you have 2 sets, and UPS is going to be here in a couple hours." So I'm dressed nice, and I have to sit here on the Bridgeport drilling holes in a piston. I've never done it before. And he just walked away like there was no questions. And I did it. I was able to do it, and I got it done. And we made UPS, and so I was hired. That was it. So I decided
that was your interview, huh?
That was my interview. And even though I was there to grind though. I wanted to port heads. That was something like when I was at the school and I worked there, people would always call me on the intercom, like to give tours and stuff like that. But what I found when I ported heads, I had to be in a room and it was loud, and I had an excuse to not be heard, or like, oh, I didn't hear you. I was in the porting room, and that's how I found my love for porting. And I decided, and I'm also an artist, so when I left school, I knew that I didn't really want to build engines. I wanted to do something with cylinder heads, and so I started working at Muses. I worked there for a couple years, and I worked under Charlie Culp over there and Tommy Gonzalez. Charlie was married to Harvey Crane's daughter.
From Crane Cams?
From Crane Cams. Okay. And he worked with Smokey Unick. His stuff was in Indy, NASCAR, drag racing, Grumpy Jenkins. Like, he was all in that area. He was one of the baddest dudes on the planet. And then, well, he hit rougher times, and he found the bottle, and that's where he laid. He ended up hanging out and just teaching me how to grind. The guy would be hammered one day. I just never forget this. He came in. He was so drunk he could barely stand, and we put him in front of a cylinder head just for shits and giggles. And the guy could grind a straight line. He
couldn't walk in a straight line.
Yeah, but he could grind it. And between the two of them, I would say is the reason why I am so talented in the grinding portion. Greg Good gave me a lot of the theory, and when I worked for Pat, I got the skill. I just needed that skill down. I didn't totally agree with Tommy's and Charlie's. Their idea was like a bigger is better kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I wasn't really into that, but I got a lot of theory from Greg, and I was able to apply it now with the help of Tommy and Charlie, because they were really hard on me. Stuff wasn't totally straight, and I'm porting heads that are gigantic. Well, I should say they start off really, really small. It's before CNCs were really big, and you'd have to make them. You might put one finger in an exhaust port, and then when you're done with it, you can put 4. So there's so much material there, and you get to really learn how to grind it.
So you spend a lot of time grinding these. So you're not starting with a CNC thing and then cleaning it up at the end, huh?
No, not like today. Like, guys today got it easy. Man, they could just. Oh, so I got fired from UC's. I started getting a lot of side work, and Pat was all right with me bringing it in. And then one day out of nowhere, he saw me bring in a side job. We were slow at the shop, and I said, "Do you mind if I bring in a side job?" And he said, "No." And I brought it in, and he looked at it, and he was like, "What is that?" And I said, "It's my side job." And he's like, "Get your shit and get the fuck out." And I was like, you want to talk about this? And he says, "What part of fire don't you understand?" So I said, okay. I got all my stuff. I put it in my car, and I came back to him, and I said, "Thank you. I appreciate it. I learned a lot." Shook his hand and walked out the door. And I didn't know what I was going to do at that point. I had been dating a girl in Bowling Green, Kentucky. So I went to Holly. I figured I could go work over there, and I met a guy. There was a guy there, Butch Bass. I talked to him, and he called Randy Dorton. Randy Dorton was, at the time, Jeff Gordon's engine builder, I think for Hendrix.
Hendrix is down in like North Carolina, though, right?
Yes. Uh-huh. But Butch said that he couldn't hire me, so he didn't have anything for me. So he decided to set me up with like somebody really good, and Randy was the man. At the moment, that was probably the height of Randy's career, and Randy's like, because they do circle track stuff, and I was doing drag race stuff, but I didn't care. I just like building horsepower. Mm-hmm. That's all I cared about. So I just decided not to go there, and it was right around this time that the September 11th happened, and when I worked at Muses, I had met the Sheikh of Bahrain. We were building a Silverado for him, and we took the LS out of it and we put a big block in and a Pro charger and all kinds of stuff. And I was in charge of the project. So I got to be friends with him. I mean, we talked every day almost for a year, and he's my age. He's, well, our age, I guess, 39. And so when September 11th happened, I saw that the Sheikh of Bahrain was in New York, and I called his cell phone, and he was like, well, that's actually my brother. My brother's over there. So he's like, what's going on? What are you doing? I said, well, you know, I left Muses, and he's like, I saw that because, like, now he has no contact. And he's like, what's going on? Like, I want to know what's going on with my truck. And we talked for a little bit, and he's like, I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine and see if he can help you. And he introduced me to another Bahraini, Hamed Al Khan. And Hamed came down, and I gave Hamed a ride in my friend Lee. I did a heads and cam on his Corvette, his LS1 Corvette. I gave him a ride in it. He was like, wow, that thing is fucking badass. So, I mean, it's a 10-second car. I got to introduce you to some friends of mine, he says. So, he introduced me to Ara Arslanian. And that was the infancy of the bullish motor racing program. Ara was a day trader, and he was racing his Supra, and he decided that he wanted to go into pro rear-wheel drive. This is during the NHRA Sport Compact Series stuff, and Nopi was around, and they asked me if I wanted to be involved in it. Now, I had been, and doing all the domestic stuff, I was very familiar with the door cars. So having something high horsepower didn't scare me, and the heads looked super easy to work on. Although I was a little intimidated, I've never done any Valtrain with them. But all I had to do was grind them. So I was able to rent a 200 square foot room for one of my customers, and I had a flow bench, an air compressor, and a bench to work on in this little room. Like, you could touch one wall or the other. It didn't have a bathroom, and I had to pee outside. It was like, this was the beginning.
But it's your dream shop, right? Like, you just want to pour all day long with not have anybody bothering you.
Yeah, I'm in that room and just listening the beautiful noise of an air compressor. But I set world records out of that room. When I started with bullish motor racing, we showed up at 15 races or 13 races, and we won 11 of the 13 races. We were the first ones in the sixes, side by side, and I also got to be friends with Sav Leone and Vince Tiaga. At the time, Vince's dad owned Golden Eagle, and Sav was he had Impo Performance, but he was racing a Honda in a Nopi series. I think it was Nopi or IDRC. We became an IDRC champion with that, and I just somehow found my way into imports. You know, I didn't mean to really find my way into imports, but they found me. And it was kind of weird because it came through an overseas contact, and he's the sheik of a country, but that's how. So that's but what I realized in that was, like, because Matt Scranton was in there, John Lingenfelter was with us, like, all these big names in my domestic side were racing with us. And on the domestic side, it's really hard to make a name for yourself. There's just so many people doing it. And on the import side, I seen that there was a big hole of not very talented grinders, because this is before anybody was doing CNC stuff. There just wasn't anybody who was doing head porting at any kind of skill level. So I knew that this was going to be the focus of the business at that point. So I started Headgames Motorworks.
And now you started it in the 200 square foot, like, room, essentially, huh?
Yes.
Okay.
And I want to tell real quick that how I came up with the name was when I worked at Muses, he would always make fun of me because I have a really big noggin. They called me Head. So my nickname over there was Head. And then one day during break time, I was like, Head Games. And everybody's looking around like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, that's what I'm going to name my business. And who knew that, you know, a couple years later, I would actually have to use that name. But that's how I got started.
Cool. Okay, so do you kind of think of yourself as an entrepreneur, or did this like venture into doing your own business kind of just happen by chance?
It happened by chance. I couldn't find a job. Nobody wanted to pay me any money. I wasn't willing to work for nothing.
Uh-huh.
So it just became something I did. It wasn't something that I set out to do from the get-go. Although I had dreams that I think a lot of people have their dreams that they want to own their own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what it would take to do that, but I guess now I'm more of an entrepreneur.
And obviously, your skill set is what is driving the business. I mean, it's not like you're like going off and doing something you've never tried before. So you knew exactly what you're doing in this business or in this industry. So
yeah, I had focus in it, and I had a lot of really good people around me. I learned from some of the best, and I had one of the guys I went to school with. He had a seat and guide machine, and he was a pretty proficient head porter, Ed Turnier. He had a seat and guide, so I kind of hooked up with him, and he did all my valve jobs. And I guess it took me a couple of years to move out of that. I went from a 200 square foot shop to a 400 square foot that had a bathroom, so that was like the step up. And then I moved into an 1,800 square foot shop, and that's I bought machines, and I went into debt for it. Like, this was something that I think I was about 4 years in when I bought all my machines, and I wasn't going to farm anything out anymore. This was going to be my job. So, and the other thing, I just, I never had a place that I would like people to come to. I used to always bring people to my house to drop cylinder heads off too. So it was really nice to get into that.
Okay. How has location played a role in your success? I mean, this shop is in Philly still?
Our shop's in Princeton Junction, which is right outside, like by Princeton University. And, as far as location, I don't think we have the kind of business that it doesn't really matter where we are.
Okay.
I was in the ghetto before, and I've never had a sign in front of Head Games. I've never done any kind of local advertising for it. So I don't think location plays any kind of role in what we do.
Okay. So people are shipping you stuff essentially, right? Or
yeah, mostly.
They either know about you or don't know about you.
Yeah, we ship to almost every continent. We're pretty popular in China. We do a lot of stuff in Russia. Well, we did a lot of stuff in Russia before they did the sanctions, but almost every continent. And the only thing that I think that plays a good role for us is that we're around a lot of dealerships, because I'm now the part of the town I'm in. We're right near a very busy road where all the new car dealerships are. So we get a lot of work from them. We don't just do performance work, although that's our mainstay. We also do a lot of regular general repair for local shops and dealerships.
Gotcha. Okay. So have you ever doubted yourself, and how did you overcome that feeling and move forward?
I never really, I had a lot of people trying to say that I shouldn't start the business when I started. And that plays a role in a lot of times when you try to do something new and it's very courageous. People who are not as courageous will always try to bring you down. There's very few people that are going to pick you up in that moment. And one thing racing taught me is that I don't play to survive whatever's going on. I'm playing there to win. So I just didn't have a B plan. I didn't have another, oh my gosh, if it fails, what am I going to do about it? No, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to be the baddest motherfucker that's ever come across there.
You've obviously surrounded yourself with successful people, and all of them are entrepreneurs or business owners. So it's not like you're not accustomed to it, right?
No, I'm really lucky to have some of the people that I get to call friends that, like Jeff Racer, and I never realized how much of an influence he has been in our business until I listened to his podcast actually the other day. And, he introduced me to some books, and he introduced me to some ideas that really brought Head Games into a different level. And, he's never had a give up attitude. I've never had a give up attitude. And that's probably why a lot of people, those are the kind of people I want to surround myself. We're going to be, we can't we can't go into negativity,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But a lot of times people take my confidence. They think that it comes easy for me. You know, everything that I've done so far, they're like, oh, well, that was given to you. That opportunity was given to you. No, none of those opportunities were given to me. I've worked for every single one of them. And, you know, I walk around sometimes and it might seem arrogant that I say I'm a bad motherfucker, but that's confidence. And that's the kind of confidence you need to survive something. You have to be in love with it. If I wasn't in love with what I do, I would have quit a long time ago.
And we have some questions later on that will address that, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean that's how I survived it, though.
Uh-huh.
So you survive the. You just need passion.
So, what's the worst experience you've had in business?
The worst experience I ever had was the stock market crash.
In 08, 07, 08?
08.
Okay.
08, yeah. 08. In 07, I was looking at buying a building, and I was building a race car, and I was spending money, and I was just having a great time. The shop was booming. We're working at 1,800 square feet. I had cheap rent, and I had 5 employees, and things were awesome. And then when I was looking at buying the building, I'd called Jeff. We were just talking about him. I called Jeff and I said, man, I'm so excited about this. And he said, just fall out of love with it. You know, just take a step back, take a week or two. If it sells, then it wasn't meant to be. And if you fall out of love with it, it wasn't meant to be. So I took that advice, and in that 2 weeks is when the stock market crashed. So, I mean, I was ready to sign papers, and I didn't pay for any of my bills for about 5 months. I had to let everybody go except for I kept one of my employees, only because she was cheap labor, and she was very positive about what was going on, and you know that we were going to survive it.
How many people did you have before the crash?
I had 5 before the crash.
Okay, so you had to let 4 of them go, huh?
4 people go.
Okay.
And
what drove that? I mean, was the business that you had from the dealerships, is that dried up, or the performance stuff dried up? What really spurred, I mean, the obvious like downfall of or loss of revenue?
Well, I wasn't doing any dealership work at the time. In fact, I was doing very little street stuff. I was doing mostly the race stuff.
Okay.
And we were just kind of making the transitions because NHRA had just they had just closed up the Sport Compact Series. Nopi just stopped, and then the market crashed, and it was just it was like a really like a perfect storm. And on my home front, my mom was battling cancer, and I got everything going on in the shop. I can't pay any of my bills. People are calling me, and they're telling me they're going to come take my stuff, and I'm a year away from paying off all my equipment, and I had bought a Corvette, and they were going to come take that. And it was a lot of stress. It was it was a lot of turmoil. But my mom had beat cancer, and I was like, if mom could beat cancer, I could beat this. Although a lot of people are in my position. There were so many other people that did the same thing or going through the same thing I am. So if they come take my stuff, it wasn't like they were going to go sell it to anybody else. And I think that's why I never, like, my landlord didn't kick me out. Nobody came and got my stuff because everybody was going through it.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it would eventually come to a point, but right around the 5-month part, out of nowhere, business started rolling in again. And it still wasn't, like, up to par, but
Enough to pay some back bills?
yeah, it was definitely like starting to get to the point. And it was during that moment though that I had a lot of free time, and I spent a lot of time on the flow bench, and I developed our pocket ports. And it was in that moment where, you know, here I can add value to a cylinder head, to a job, you know, like somebody wants to get a rebuild or whatnot. And I can add value to that. I can say, well, we can pocket port the head, which is a very non-invasive. You're just doing the bowl area or the area underneath the valve seat and the short side radius and the valve job. And they scream. They make like 30, 40 CFM more, which is what some people are picking up with a full port. And they're cheaper because you don't have to do all the labor of fully porting a head. And at a time when people don't have money, this is the perfect situation for that. So when I came up with that and I started advertising on Evo M, that's when business really started to pick up, and like the light was at the end of the tunnel. I knew that I could survive this, and we're going to go somewhere. At least I could pay all my bills back, you know.
They didn't come and take your machines or your Corvette, huh?
No, I was able to put a whole bunch of money in the Corvette and sell it. That was a very expensive piece of shit. And then I also, you know, I got to pay off all my machines, and I haven't bought anything. Well, I just recently bought something, but it was years for me to go into debt like that again.
Okay.
It hurt my credit. It hurt my credit big time. It's stopped me because I was so late on all those bills. It stopped me from moving much forward afterward. You know, like credit-wise, like you can't go out and just buy a CNC. You can't go out and buy stuff because people see all these late payments on your credit.
Yeah.
And
the machines are so expensive; they're very hard to buy without credit. So.
Yes, I mean we're talking a house, and you paid off in a $285,000 house, and you paid off in 5 years, 5 to 7 years. So you definitely need some capital. So
what's something you're doing right now that has you fired up?
I am so happy about what I'm doing with the Vipers. It's just something that, you know, it's a project that kind of scared me in the beginning. I got to meet the engineer who designed the heads, and my friend Dan Archer, he works at McLaren. He's been so instrumental in helping me find different people to help me. And like whenever I need a question, you know, there's always somebody who can answer me. Tim Connolly over there, he also at McLaren, like he's been a big help in the development of that program. But I got my own valve guides for it. I got my own valves, got my own retainers. I don't know how to sell all of it because I'm not big in that market, but I'm pretty excited about it. And we did some Lamborghini stuff. I guess I'm a little less excited about that, but I'd like to see that pick up.
And so what's the involvement with the McLaren people in a Viper? Is it just that they know people?
Well, McLaren is used to be very involved in the Viper program.
Okay, I did not know this.
So, yeah, until Arrow took over. I think Arrow builds all the motors now, but McLaren was also a part of the program. And Tim worked over at Chrysler. Tim Connolly, the guy I mentioned earlier, he worked over there. So there's just a plethora of people that you can find out information from. And so I got to sit down and have lunch at PRI with the guy who designed the heads. You know, I got to talk to him and say what valve jobs work, you know, what have you done this and do that. And it's just opportunities that you don't come across. And actually I went to school with Dan at School of Automotive Machinist, and that's where I got the connection. So, you know, years later, they still come to play.
Okay.
But I'm also, you know, it's just a really exciting time for, you know, the shop's just growing. So are the bills, but the bills go along with the amazing growth and the expansion of the shop. It's awesome to watch. You know, something that I started that I could have all of my customers on a piece of paper or in my head, and I knew everything was going on until now. You know, we have 100 heads flying through the shop.
Cool. So before we continue to talk more about head games, I wanted to take a second and thank our sponsors. Before we continue on, I wanted to take a second and tell everyone about My Shop Assist. If you own or work for a performance shop of any type, take some time to think about how organized and efficient your operation is. Our goal at Do It For a Living is to tell success stories in the industry and to educate you, the listener, on how to be successful in your business. My Shop Assist is a cloud-based shop management system developed to address the common shortcomings shops have. It enables you to track hours, pictures, notes, and even parts on every job at your shop. Manage your techs with the built-in calendar and assign tasks to them. The jobs can be exported to QuickBooks for accounting and billing. Customers can log in online and follow your progress on their car and digitally sign your work orders. MSA was designed to be simple to use and will help anyone from a one-man shop to the top-performing shops in our industry. Check out the system for free at myshopassist.com. All right, so tell us about Headgames Motorworks. Like, how big is the shop space you're in right now? And did you end up buying the building, or do you still rent it?
Yeah, I'm renting it. It's 4,800 square feet.
Okay. Have you ever written a formal business plan?
I've never written a formal business plan, and I hear all the time that that's like a really bad thing, but it hasn't hurt me.
You're flying by the seat of your pants, huh?
Yeah, I mean, things change so much, that I guess you could look at it as like, this is my goal, this is what I want to do, but and then you could look back on it. I get it, where you could say, hey, I'm not there yet, but I look at like a year ahead.
Okay.
This is what I want to do next year, because I see what I'm doing this year and I have goals for this year, and then I move on to the next year. I don't like to look too far ahead.
Okay. How many employees do you have right now?
We have 7 total. There is a couple of part-timers, and we have 3 full-timers. We have I have women that do some of the machine work here. And they are awesome. And I have a couple guys that do some grinding and sanding, and my little sanding bitch. And I have a cleaning guy. I really need more employees. That's the biggest issue, I guess, the hurdle I have to get over.
Do you find it difficult managing the people or keeping them on task?
Well, I learned in I can't remember what year it was, but it took a lot for me to figure it out, or I should say a lot to let go of the ego. But managing is not my forte, so I actually don't manage at all here. And I kind of oversee it in some sort of sense, but I have a manager. Tiffany has been with me since she was 18. Tiffany Hable, and she's been with me almost 10 years now. And I made her a manager a couple years ago because she has a little bit more, what's that word I'm looking for? A little bit more moxie. She's not scared to tell people, they're fucking up, or, and she has much more organizational skills, which is something I totally lack. If I'm involved, it gets fucked up. So we just have her run the shop, and I strictly do my job.
So you're porting. You're not managing. You're working in the business and not on the business. Essentially, is what you've made that's what you enjoy doing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not good at. You have to do what you can be the best in the world at, nothing else, and that is definitely not managing. I am not a business guy, and as a business owner, it's a little hard sometimes to like let that go, but I learned to let it go, and it was probably the best thing I ever did.
How much freedom do you give her to do things? Like if she wants to, like hire another person, do you let her take that role?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have conversations. There's definitely communication about it.
Okay.
Like, going back and forth, what we think, what are we looking for, or what have you. But, usually we're on the same page, and which is a rare thing as well. But she has total reign of hiring, firing, whatever she wants to do.
Excellent. So what are your primary sources of revenue? I mean, is it just like porting heads? You said you do some dealership work. Do you manufacture anything?
I actually, porting heads is probably the least, well, it is the least moneymaker. We learned that from MSA. It's the least money-making thing here. The biggest moneymaker here is our pocket ports and our rebuilds.
Okay.
Not so much just the dealerships, because dealerships usually don't go into the heads. They just want to milled and pressure tested and send out the door. They're, they're like a day turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
But our pocket ports are our primary source. And if we were to pick a genre, it would absolutely be the Subarus. We have so many Subarus here. I don't advertise anywhere with them besides on Facebook, but they are, I mean, we probably do about 4 a week.
Okay. So a bunch of them. Todd also told me that you're doing a little bit of R&D work with Ford, right?
Well, we're doing nothing actually with Ford. We're doing it with Jeff Racer at Full Race.
Oh, okay.
We're doing some EcoBoost stuff. We tested his exhaust manifold. We changed the design probably, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many times. Just trying to find, where the port likes to be. We don't really do any development work with those people, but GSC would be somebody who we do a lot of development work with. We help them with all their valve guides. Greg calls me and we talk about what kind of lift we want to put in cams and duration, cam specs, and he's probably our closest ally and person that we do sort of development work. Like he'll make something and he sends it to me and we try it out. We'll put it on a cylinder head here and see how it works, how it fits, and give some feedback, and he'll make the appropriate changes.
So that R&D work is it's you also experimenting for your business. They're not paying you to do this work, or are they actually paying you to do that work?
They're not paying me to do any of that work.
Okay, so it's like a mutual. You guys are both benefiting from this R&D.
We're just doing it to make the world a better place.
Okay.
So like the valve guides, all the valve guides that are available on the market are mostly oversized valve guides. So we bought a lathe and we started doing that. We started doing it in-house. We were just making guides, or we take the guide that they make, we'd modify it and turn it down. And I learned like a B series. I cracked, I don't know how many B series heads because I wasn't measuring it, and I was just sticking what they tell me is a, factory or standard size guide, and I put them in there, and they cracked a head, and I thought it was me, and started measuring. I realized that the guides that come out of it were 2,000 smaller than what goes in it. So when I hooked up with Greg over at GSC, and I told him what was going on, he's like, I can make those. So we started making guides, and then there were certain heads that could use a stop, and we made those changes. Certain heads you can use a shorter guide, or you can have radiuses and whatnot. And he listened to almost everything we talked about, and it really made our job easier because I didn't want to go out and spend $1 billion because we do cylinder heads for everything. If we only concentrate on one cylinder head, I would do that, but we do so much of everything that it just made sense for us to give the information away, do all the R&D for free, and reap the rewards of just being able to call up, get a guide, come in here, and everybody gets to use this stuff. Everybody gets to benefit.
Okay. And you keep mentioning Jeff Racer, and I think when Todd was visiting with you guys, he said you're actually following what Jeff had to say about organizing your shop and making it more of an assembly line, right? Todd said it was pretty well organized, huh?
Yes. We he wanted me to totally redo my shop, which wasn't going to happen. He came in here screaming and spitting, just my God, you're being an idiot. But we did make it so the shop's more of an assembly line. It comes in one door and it goes around the shop, it goes around the perimeter, and then it gets boxed up and thrown out the same door it came in. And that was totally from Jeff. I mean, we had stuff, you'd come here to do there, and 5,000 square feet, although it's not an incredible amount of space, to carry a cylinder head and for it to go back and forth to the same spot a couple times was very inefficient. Mm-hmm. So we definitely worked on the efficiency, and it's helped us greatly.
Awesome. Okay, so how many hours a week are you working?
I work about 60 hours a week.
So not super crazy. Are you open 6 days a week or 5 days a week?
6 days.
Okay. And do you have a family?
I do. I have a girlfriend of 3 years, Crystal Jarzik, and we have a little one that she brought into the relationship. His name's Landon Jarzik, and he's 6 years old. He's a little gearhead too, and I've made that kid a little. I've sickened him with speed and all that stuff. So he is all about going to track and drag racing. And actually, it was kind of weird when I met them and I met him. He had already been in the cars, so I was instantly like, "Oh my God, you're the coolest kid alive!" And we just kind of clicked right there. I got lucky with that, I guess. And she was also in the cars, so Well, I needed to make them move in and and make them be a permanent fixture.
So has having a girlfriend and essentially now your kid, has that changed your work schedule at all?
It totally changed my work schedule. And before they came into the picture, I'd work from like 10:30 to whenever, 8, 10 o'clock at night, didn't matter. And there's so many people like me who are in this industry and they work late. They wake up late and they work late, and they talk about how late they work. But with a child, I would never see him, and I would never see my girl. Like, she's not going to just come over and hang out in the shop all day. So, I started getting up earlier, and I made like hour increments, and now I get up around 5 o'clock, and I work till 5:30. I do it every day, and it totally changed my life. But I feel like I wasted years of my life waking up late and working late because I never got to experience anything. I was always working, and I never got to press that reset button. If I would have done what I do now, I would experience so much more. I would have been able to go to the beach and hang out with my friends and, do all the cool stuff. But instead, I was working.
So, but that time is valuable. I mean, you obviously learned a lot while you were working a lot.
I certainly learned a lot, but, and I guess I had the energy to do it. I don't have the energy to do that anymore, but it was definitely a life-changing situation, and I would never go back to my old ways.
So does the pay justify the time spent?
It depends on how you consider payment. I get paid. I feel like I get paid when a customer wins a race, or they call me up and say, "Yo, this thing's badass," or I get praise, or people are happy with our work. So it's not so much as a monetary payment. It's an awesome feeling. I have one of the best jobs in the world. I have one of the worst jobs in the world too. I mean, people come back down on you, but something goes wrong. I mean, it sucks. But there's no rich cylinder head porters. There's no wealthy machinists that I know of, unless they started off wealthy. And but it's worth it. I really like what I do.
Okay.
Although I do have times that I wish I had a job and I had days off and I had vacation time and I had or I should say paid days off and vacation time and all the accoutrements you get with having a job, like a pension. Mm-hmm. If I had like a state job or something, being a janitor, I think about those days sometimes.
Awesome. Okay, so let's pause for a second, and we'll tell our listeners about a class that EFI University is offering. EFI University is hosting a new class called Essentials of Operating a Shop. If you're interested in learning how to run your shop more efficiently, this class is for you. For details and to find a class near you, go to EFI101.com and look for the Essentials of Operating a Shop class. Our next class is being held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on June 4th, followed by Denver, Colorado on July 16th. Be sure to use the coupon code DIFAL for $50 off when you sign up. So moving on, let's talk about yourself a little bit more here. What's something that you struggle with in business, and how do you deal with it?
The biggest struggle we have, I guess, is just there's not enough hours in a day. I mean, there's just too much work and so little time. And I said during daylight savings time, I think moving an hour in would be so less. It would be better if they just gave us an extra hour. If there was 25 hours in a day during daylight savings time, I think it would be awesome. Just that one extra hour would really help me. And we struggle with it, that there's so much time, or so much work and not very little time. But efficiency helps us kind of deal with it. It's not as chaotic as when I wasn't as efficient. There would be times where I'd have to pull all-nighters and I'd have to do crazy stuff because I wasn't as prepared as I am now. And the other problem I have is struggling with hiring new employees who are just as passionate about this stuff as we are. I have a good group, and for the most part, everybody's passionate. Everybody wants to be a part of it, and there's no ego. And but that's hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to find somebody who is like ego free, which means like they're not coming there and say, "Yo, I'm a badass," but like, what can you teach me? They're like, "I'm a badass, and I know what I'm doing, and you don't," and they're not reliable.
When I talked to you, I think it was last week, I was in Mazworks, and he actually did the same thing. He said he doesn't even hire people who have, experience in machining because they bring their attitude and their know-it-all mentality.
Yeah.
And he said he wants them to do it their way or his way, not their way, and that's become a big problem for him, is finding people that don't have experience that he can train to do it the way he wants to do. So
I have a couple employees that come from different shops. They came from local repair shops, and I have one that does everything the way we want it done, and he's like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then I have another one. She wants to do it her way, and some of her ways are good. I mean, she's better at some of the stuff than the rest of us are, you know. So we kind of have to let her fly with that.
okay.
But I had like an employee to come. The guy came here and he seemed really passionate, and then no show, no call. Like, how do you do that? And just unreliable. That's something we struggle with. Is just finding people that we have a very laid back atmosphere, and I don't want to get rid of that. I don't want it to be like a Hitler place. You're scared of your boss, and you hate that guy every day. But although it seems like those atmospheres work a little bit better for people that are afraid, because people think they can take advantage of me.
Okay, and you said that you wish you had another hour in the day, but has between Jeff and MSA, have you ever looked at your processes and actually stopped doing something because it was taking too much time? Like you said, you were cutting back on the actual port work because it's not very profitable. Is that something that you've addressed and are working towards?
We're not working at cutting it back because we're not looking at cutting back cylinder porting because it is something that's needed, and a lot of people, although we don't make as much money on it, it's just something that Headgames has a reputation for. Okay. So I would never stop doing it, but it just makes us less money. The things that I have stopped doing are certain cylinder heads. I just don't bring them in the shop anymore. Okay. I used to just bring anything in, and there are certain processes on particular cylinder heads that just slow us down. Okay. And like an RB26 will slow the whole shop down when it comes to lash. Like it almost comes to a halt because it takes so long to lash one of them things. Or like an SR20. For us, it doesn't work because everything else is so, we have much more of an efficiency problem at that point when you get to that cylinder head. So I tell those people they can drop the head off, but expect to wait forever for it. And I don't even want to be complained about. You're dropping it off knowing that you're going to get it done. You're going to get it done right, but I'm going to do it at our slowest time, not during busy time. Which honestly, we haven't slowed down in a couple years.
So you got a stack of SR20 heads laying there, huh?
No, I mean I took my last one in last year. Okay. I'll do them, but I just won't lash them. So I do the same thing with the RBs. I'll do everything else, but you can either take it to someplace else or do it yourself. I really don't care. I'm not gonna be your guy.
Okay. So you are dealing with things that slow you down then by just not doing them.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. You have to learn to say no sometimes.
Okay. What's the most successful thing you've used to promote your business? You said you were on EvoM, right? What about Facebook? Obviously, building cars is big for you too, right?
Facebook actually is the biggest. I would say that we almost came out of the dark because of Facebook, and it's given a chance for us to show everybody our product in the way that we want to show a product. The problem with the forums was internet brands bought everything, and they want everything advertised in their way. They want you to, advertise your business the way they want you to advertise your business. And I couldn't go there with them because they don't know what's right for me. At least I felt like they didn't know what's right. So I got out of the advertising on Evo M, although it did help me at a crucial time. And I started spending money on Facebook ads and getting a like page. And we do Instagram. I get a little bit less business from Instagram, but online, almost free stuff has definitely helped us much more than forums.
Okay. Do you have a 1-year plan for the business?
Yes. Yes, I do have a 1-year plan. Nothing concrete, but we have goals that we want to achieve.
Tell us about those goals.
One thing, I want to hire like 2 more people. I want to find somebody who is, I'm going to start them part-time. I'm going to start them, trying to just get in the mesh of things, and then hopefully they'll cultivate. And I guess I'm looking for a miracle, because that sounds like a miracle to me. And I bought a seat and guide machine last PRI, and I've been thinking very heavily for years, and I've never pulled the trigger. But I'm still looking at if I want to get into a CNC. I have cold feet about it. It's probably the only thing I fear is buying one of those things, and the economy drying up again. I guess it's one thing that, once you go through something, it kind of resonates with you. I wouldn't be able to survive it if I had one of those machines, but I tried my hardest. I guess it wouldn't be the end of the world. Mm-hmm. But
are you trained on a CNC?
I'm not. I just started taking Mastercam University.
Okay.
But if I bought a machine, it would probably be the Centroid or the Rottler, and they have learning. You can actually, any machine you get, you can just get somebody to digitize it for you and mm-hmm. have the program.
Okay. So what's the 5-year plan for the business?
I just don't look that far ahead.
Okay.
I don't believe in it. I think
too unpredictable, huh?
Yeah, just so much goes on, and you're looking at your 5-year plan, and it almost means nothing. At least to me, it means nothing to me, because I don't know what's going to happen in the next year. So if I knew that, I would change my view. But
buy a bunch of lottery tickets.
I do buy lottery tickets, and I get mad every time I don't win. But if I won the lottery, that'd be dangerous. Oh my gosh.
Then you'd be the rich machinist, right?
Yes, that would be. Oh my gosh, that would be a force to reckon with at that point.
So we like to take action on Do It for a Living. Can you suggest an action item our listeners can take and improve their situation?
Yeah, I think that if I mentioned it earlier about just getting up, getting up early and taking action in the morning. Like you if you get up at 5 a.m., between 5 and 8 or 5 and 9, we get the most amount of work done. I think I start the shop, I get here at 7:30, and we don't turn our phones on until 10. So in that time, I jam on some work. Music's playing, we're at full energy, and we're not being bothered. And that has helped me get so much work done and uninterrupted. And it puts your head in the right place for the day.
Awesome.
It makes a lot of people think we start at 10, but and that's what we want.
Right. Yeah, phone hours and actual when you're there time is obviously very different, and that's actually one thing we try to tell a lot of shops about is you do get stuff done when you're not answering the phone. So
yeah, I unfortunately I've become worse as the business has grown. I've become worse at being around the phone. But if I start my day off early and I get a whole bunch done, and because a lot of times people will do it on the opposite side of the day. They're going to do it. They're like, oh, the shop closes at 5:30, and then I go to work, and then they work till like 8 o'clock, and they have no family time, they have no me time, they have no nothing, and they just get dragged down. And you can't live life like that. And if you get up early and you just flip it to the other side of the day, you'll have much more energy. You'll get more accomplished because you have so much energy, and you'll have your mindset set for the day.
I'll have to work on that. I'm actually an afternoon, evening person too. I think I'm half dead at 5 a.m. But yeah, I mean, I have 2 kids too, so it's a struggle for me to want to, I want to spend as much time as I can with them, but it's really hard when I wake up when they wake up, and then I don't see them till I get home, which is like their bedtime. So
yeah, if you just switch that to I mean, Landon gets up at, I get him up at like 6:30, and I get him ready for school with Crystal, and he's out the door. And then, we just do it so early. And then the time at night is like, it goes by so fast. Mm-hmm. You get home for dinner, and then next thing you know, it's like 8:30 and it's time for bed. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you should work on that, bro.
I will.
You would enjoy that.
Okay, so let's move on to our quick answer questions. Tell us a game-changing product you've seen in the last year.
Maybe EFR turbos, I guess. But maybe that I could go to that one because I see turbocharger technology just taking off, and with the EFR series, you have something that's just so quality and so technically advanced, and it even has the speed sensor on it. That's mm-hmm. something you don't get, and this is technology that we would normally never see. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for them.
Okay, so what software are you using daily?
Daily, we have iMacs here, so we have a little bit different than. I don't know why anybody does not use an iMac. The regular computers just suck. Coming from that era and going to this, it'll totally change your life. But one of our favorites is To Do. And we've been using that for years, and as you can like assign employee tasks, and you can communicate through it, and you can check, and you can use it as an inventory tracker. And we also use Phone Log Pro, which is when somebody calls and they leave a message. I'll never check messages, so Tiffany will put it in Phone Log Pro, and I'll be able to check it. I'll know kind of what is it about, how fast do I need to call them, and the importance of the phone call.
Okay.
And we also use MSA, which has helped us realize like what we're putting our time into, what we shouldn't put our time into, and we haven't really used it as updating customers as much as probably we should, but it's really a great tool. So that way we stop the phone calls, at least not all the phone calls, but we stop some phone calls because people can go in there. And we also do stuff for shops, so shops can go in there and see the progress without mm-hmm. having to, because they use it too, mm-hmm. and they can log in. They can say, "Oh, okay, we know where it's at," and they don't have to make a phone call. They don't have to send an email, and it takes it down some.
Awesome. What's your favorite app? And this does not have to be shop related too.
My favorite application, Facebook.
Okay, yeah, that's actually a pretty common answer.
I guess it's the only really one I use. I Facebook and Instagram are my 2 favorite apps.
Oh, and actually, on the last question, I forgot to ask: do you guys use QuickBooks for accounting?
We do.
Okay, but you're using the Mac version, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, what's your favorite shop tool?
My favorite shop tool would have to be my grinder.
That's a pretty obvious one, I think.
Yeah, well, I have 2 kinds. I have air and I have electric. My air grinder is pretty cool, but I've had it since I worked at Musie's. I have 6 of them, and they're expensive. They're like $700, but my electric grinder really changed my life, and it's probably my favorite tool here. It's a Makita, an 0600, but they stopped making it. Makita USA stopped making it, but they still make it in Canada. So now we've had to get it from Makita, Canada, over here. I mean, I love that grinder. It's just probably my favorite tool. Anytime I have to, like, I don't use it for finishing. I use it for roughing stuff in.
Okay.
And I get to put something on there. And it doesn't matter how long the bit is, and because it just runs so true. And I get to just eat cylinder heads up because I have no patience for metal coming out slowly. It has to come out as quick as possible. So.
And this is a corded grinder.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What are you driving right now?
I drive a 2012 Avalanche every day, but I'm building a couple cars. I got a 87 Buick that I've had since high school. I told that story about that car back. I was like 15 when we got it, and it sat in storage since '98. And when I moved to this shop, I took it out and I made some hard decisions of not putting it's only got 44,000 miles on it, so it's an all original car. And I decided not to put the Buick motor back in it because, well, I've learned so much over the years, and all the cars I deal with make 600 plus, so, which is hard to do with a turbo Buick. So I'm building a twin turbo LS for it. I got twin Borg Warner 62s on it.
And it is beautiful.
And
this
Anthony
is the one you take pictures of and post on Facebook, right?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
It is beautiful.
Anthony from 16W, knocked it out of the park with all the billet parts for it. And I had my buddy Kevin, he has an upholstery shop, and we put my logo on the seats. And I've basically been able to fund building the car from all my old parts from other cars and from that car. And I'm also building a 2JZ powered Fox body. That's kind of on the back burner because I really want to finish the Buick. But that's something for my girl to drive, because I told her that, she can't really drive the Buick because if something happens to it, it will change our relationship. And I had to be honest with her. Like, it wouldn't be the same. I love her, but yeah, it would be heartbreaking. So I want to build her a car that she can go out, she can have fun with, and she wants to drag race it. And so we're going to put like a small turbo on it first, maybe make like 600-700 horsepower with it at first. And then we're going to turn the wick up on it. And I would like to do some roll racing with it. And we're just going to have a good time with it.
Cool. So let's close this thing out here. What do you think the future of automotive performance is going to be?
I think that our performance-wise, it's only going to get better and better because all the manufacturers have to do is keep making the cars more efficient. So the only way they're going to make efficiency is to better the cylinder head, better the thermal efficiency, and they're going to have to boost stuff because they're going to have to get in the smaller motors. They're going to have to turn off cylinders. So I can't see where it's not going to just grow. It's going to thrive, and I think they're going to get away from batteries because batteries are so caustic. It's a good thing in some of the racing. I like what they're doing in Indy with it. Obviously Mercedes is killing it over there, but I just don't see where applicable to do it in the millions. Having all those batteries, we're already killing Mother Earth as it is. So I see our automotive performance industry being a boosted future.
Okay. And how do we connect with you and your company?
You can contact us through Facebook. We have an Instagram, and we also have a website, headgamesmotorworks.com, or you can call us at 609-882-3211. Awesome.
Well, David, I really appreciate you taking some time and talking with us.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. There's been some really good guys that got to talk to you and be on this program, and for you to offer it to me is an honor. To think that somebody wants to hear what bullshit I got to say.
Well, I think all the people that you referenced, I obviously picked a good person to interview because you seem to know everybody. So
I definitely got to know everybody. Yep.
Cool.
So cool, man. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website, doitforaliving.net. check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe.